What is earnest money? So earnest money is also known as trust money or good faith money. It could be called something else depending on the state that you're in. Basically, earnest money is a deposit towards your final funds due at closing. So what that means is that it's not separate money from the transaction. It's money that gets applied to the transaction. And it is handled by either the title company or the attorney's office that you're closing with. Sometimes the earnest money can be held by other institutions like one of the real estate brokerages, but that money gets applied towards your final funds due at closing. For example, whenever you have a legally binding agreement, so that means that the buyer and seller have come to terms, they have agreed, we've got an accepted agreement. Whenever the last real estate agent in the transaction has date and time stamped it, being the last person, the last agent that has seen it with both signatures, you have what's called a legally binding agreement. That's what they consider binding in the state of Tennessee. So once you have a binding agreement, you have a set number of days to get that earnest money, aka trust money, turned in to your closing agency or the holder of the earnest money, wherever that may be. Normally that's about 5 calendar days in our contracts. Now on a standard transaction, your earnest money amount is somewhere in the vicinity of about $1,000. I've seen 500, I've even seen 250. I've also seen cash transactions where earnest money has been waived because we've had a 2-week closing and the seller agreed to allow the buyer to pay the balance due in full at closing without doing an earnest money deposit because they provided a proof of funds letter. So keep that in mind. But usually that money gets allocated either towards your down payment or towards your closing costs. So if you have a 0% down loan and you have no down payment, it'll get applied to your closing costs. If you've negotiated with the seller to have your closing costs paid for by them and you're not bringing a down payment or closing costs and you still qualify for the loan, then the title company or attorney's office that you're closing with will either cut some or all of that earnest money amount back to you at the closing table. Now, earnest money is different from a builder deposit, so remember that, okay? Whenever you're dealing with a builder, normally your builder deposits, the money that they charge up front is a non-refundable deposit. In the event that you have made selections in the house like your cabinets, granite tops, color schemes, and those sorts of things, and you've backed out of the contract, that's the reason why that money is normally non-refundable. So it is different with new construction than it is with earnest money. So that's what earnest money is. It may be a little bit different in your state, but that is pretty standard across the board in most states that I've seen. So good luck out there in your home buying experience. I hope you find the home of your dreams. And if you're working in Middle Tennessee, give us a shout. Thank you.